Hello and welcome to another In Conversation With, brought to you by Little Orchard. I'm Lewis Webster, I'm the MD, and Little Orchard, obviously we produce video, and we're doing this as a way of helping you guys get engaged with each other. So if you need some video, please come and have a talk, but for now let's crack on with In Conversation With. You can join us by twittering that's the @ symbol, little_orchard. You can follow us on Facebook, but most people seem to like to use the Watch Again feature on Facebook. Our email address has slightly changed for this episode. It is now icw@littleorchardprods, PRODS, that's prods, .co.uk. Just I seem to get a lot of those emails, and I just wanted to filter them out, make it easier for you guys. And of course, if you want to click onto the Ustream button, you can click onto Ustream and you can come through the channel, you can sign up, but again that's probably better to do at the end of the show once you've seen some stuff. So, the other piece of housekeeping we just need to do quickly, it is on moderated stream on Ustream, so if you're asking questions on Ustream over on the right hand side there, it is on moderated. Just use this for common sense, guys. And if you hear things going on in the background, there's teams getting on with their stuff, there's people ringing in to see where they're next needed for shoots, so there's stuff going on here. So thank you very much, and now over to Les. So Les, thank you very much for coming in, I really appreciate it.
Afternoon.
Thank you. Wired City is all about networking and collaboration with normally business within the same sort of sectors, which is unusual. Does this actually work, or is this just another business fad? Okay.
I think with the experience that we've had over the last 2 years, Lewis, I think it does demonstrate that the networking, particularly collaborative networking, is clearly something that is working. We work primarily with digital, creative and ICT businesses. We work across the whole Northwest and now in Yorkshire and the East Midlands. And what we found are the successes and the feedback from delegates is the beauty that they go and they can talk, relax and therefore network with companies of simmering, where they appreciate there may be some competition in the room, but there's lots of opportunities to explore. And by being facilitated and we provide introductions, it allows us to actually focus in on who you actually want to meet with, rather than meeting 5 graphic designers meeting 5 graphic designers.
Okay, so when you say you facilitate introductions, I know what that means because I've been to some of your events. Can you tell the guys at home?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we start off by looking at requesting for business profiles. We ask the companies to provide us information on who they are, what they actually do, what their specialism. A perfect example of that might be a freelancer. What's the language that they're actually working in, what their expertise they might have, and more importantly, what sort of sectors are they working. Then we look at matching those, trying to bring them in. We have things called calls for collaboration, where businesses are actually asking for, we are looking for companies that can provide us with a solution. We want to work with people who can do this. So straight away, we're getting into collaboration. So before you even enter the room, you've probably got 4 or 5 people talking to you and having your cards marked, which is very different from other sort of networks where you just walk in and you look around the room and you think, right, where the hell do I start? Who do I actually want to speak to? Yeah. So that's where it's facilitated.
I think that's a really interesting difference, because when I've been, there are projects I've got, sort of just starting in my mind, I'm thinking, how am I going to facilitate making sure that all those elements are delivered? And that's why, turning up to some of your events really sort of helps with what we're doing. And also, we obviously do video. That's our thing, but we do very sort of B2B video, very salesy video. And other companies that we've met that also do video, they are better set at doing fly-on-the-wall documentary style, or super gloss pieces that they might do 1 or 2 a year, whereas we're a constant stream of work. So it's interesting to have conversations with those teams, from my perspective as well. So do you see collaboration as selling
Okay.
What's the difference between collaboration and selling?
I think there's quite a distinct difference. Very recently I went along to a meeting with a local authority, and I met with one of the business people there, and they kept referring to collaboration, the opportunity to put your pitch. And I said, wait a minute, so you define collaboration as sales? Oh yes. Don't you? And I said, well, no. I mean, I look at collaboration, and Wire City looks at collaboration on 3 levels. Firstly, we're looking for businesses that can work together, maybe through outsourcing or being outsourced to. Mm-hmm. And the format that we create, we turn it away from a sales pitch to being that, if I can joke, the sort of Cilla Black blind date, where you have one person that's looking for an outsourcing option, and we try and create 3 options they would actually have. Unlike other networking events where it's about single referrals, I'd like to be in a situation you as the business, and you actually make the decision as who you commit your business to, rather than one. So that's the first level of collaboration. The second is a sort of alliance. Instead of me trying to sell to you, Lewis, why don't we look at the synergy, what you've got in your team's skills and what my team have got, and bring them together. And you talked about yourself about projects that you've looked at where you've worked with a business that's got something that complements, that adds to. That instead of selling to each other, we're selling to our client base. So, in the sense that we're getting more opportunities to bring things together and then to sell on. I think the third one is the sort of partnership where people do, and I'm now gathering anecdotal case studies of where people are actually coming together and then tendering, putting in for bids. I've got, for perfect example, I've got a Manchester design company that specialises in working for the emergency services in South East England, and I'm trying to put them in contact with a hardware company that would actually complement, so they could work together on tenders and bids for that. I'm actually looking at a 4th one, which is actually linking businesses in the Northwest with businesses in Yorkshire, and the sort of opportunities there for tendering, for going for bids, and issues like that.
Well, so that's quite interesting, because I went to one of your do's in Leeds,
yes, right.
And I've been to one in Liverpool,
yeah.
And there's a completely different set of companies and a different also mindset, I think, as well, which is really interesting and really sort of opened up my mind again to go, okay, well, you know, that's a really good place to be doing that type of work, and maybe Liverpool's better for doing this type of work with, and you can work your strategic partnerships through that, and yeah. It's a really interesting way to go outside your own areas.
Well, again, the strength that we look at with Wire City Reconnected is we use a term additionality, that we're not trying to network with the same groups of people in the same location. Mm-hmm. So Stockport businesses are not just meeting with Stockport businesses, as an example. And you came across to Leeds. In that room in Leeds, we had businesses from Bradford, Leeds, Sheffield, Manchester, and that was very positive because it gave them a wider perspective of what was actually going on. So rather than just selling, you were actually getting a flavour of what was actually happening in these different locations. And you yourself was successful in getting a very interesting lead.
Yeah.
Because we were able to introduce you to someone who had seen your profile, seen your work, and wanted to have a chat. And that takes it away from a sort of, as soon as you walk into a room, someone gives you a business card and says, I'm going to have, whether you like it or not, 5 minutes of my time to tell you about my widget making machine. Mm-hmm. As you probably appreciate, we can get rid of that.
Yeah.
And that's where I think it's more productive.
I think, yeah, that's one of the things that's really interesting, because you do go to networking meetings, and the first time you go to a network meeting is about, you know, trying to find people in the room. The second and the third time is trying to find people in the room again, because they're not nearly not the same people.
Yeah.
But this helps you get past that first stage. You've read a little bit about them, you've had a bit of time to consider what you might be able to talk about. If there's nothing to talk about, then you don't have to worry about them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is a really nice sort of thought.
Yeah, you miss out the people you don't have to speak with.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, it's as if you've only got 2 hours, You want to, excuse my expression, bang bang, get the interviews in, and then as you've done, when you've done your meetings, you can go and talk to other people to catch up what they're doing and listen to what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. Now this brings us on to another sort of interesting thing. I was at a Do Run by How Do event over at the Hive. And that was a really interesting piece, but one of the questions that came up, and I think it was from Mike Pearl from MC2, and he was saying part of collaboration, which is core today to a lot of creative industries especially, is about who owns the client. You know, there used to be this idea that there was a lead agency and they owned the client and everyone sat behind them. And now there's this sort of question about, well, there's all these points of interaction and clients want agencies to work better together, more collaborative together. Who owns the client?
I think that is a sort of $1 million question. We would actually say that collaboration networks is an issue that matures. You know, you're not going to go along to your first networking event, get your first £1 million contract. It's going to be sitting with a business partner that you're going to work for the next 5 years. It's something that takes hard work. And I think the other thing which I found when I was doing some research into it, it's about trust.
Absolutely.
And at the end of the day, wide city events the delegates are predominantly people that own their businesses. Rather than when you go to other networking events where you're very often meeting the business development, the sales teams, those sort of people who don't actually have the authority to make the decisions. Now, we can metaphorically, with cold beer and nice food, take the horse to the water. We can bring the two horses together. We don't creep up to behind you, whack you with bricks. But then the notion of trust and respect and professionalism is really depending on yourselves. Now, if it's an outsourcing, which we do a lot of, and working with people to outsource, we encourage the freelancers to realise that they will probably be working under other people's labels and to actually respect that. And if you don't, you damage your own reputation. And I think that's what it's littered with. I was with someone this morning and we were talking about exactly the same issue about going through collaborative projects and the element of trust and the element of who controls things. And it is an issue. We looked at it in various other roles, particularly in training roles, about if you, 2 or 3 of you going for a tender, there needs to be some sort of an agreement. I think it's some sort of memorandum of understanding. That sounds very legal, but clearly laying out who will do what, who will have the responsibility. And in the perfect situation, you complete the project, you may split, and then you go on and find another partner to go on and do another sort of project. So I think there's something about maturity.
Yeah, I think there's definitely that sort of need. Sorry, I've got a stinking cold and I'm blowing my nose. So, excuse me.
Do you want me to just a quick dance?
Sorry. Now then, you know, I don't know if you're the right person to ask, but it brings us on to, you know, the consequences of, you know, who owns the IP and those sort of things, and there's all those sort of questions as well, and that will obviously be something that you need to work out as part of that agreement.
I would actually strongly recommend that. I mean, we've worked on other sort of projects where we looked at the concept of the virtual business. And we've been trying to work, and because of the various changes around in funding, that was an interesting project where we would bring in lawyers within the sector that can actually advise you on that. I think it is a serious issue that, like any business decision you actually make, you actually have to think them through, and that's where I think getting some advice around the sort of memorandum of association, the sort of who's going to do the project, who's going to what happens with the money, what happens to the client, have to be built down. Again, we can put you in contact with 2 or 3 options of people that might be able to assist, rather than us actually say this is the best way.
Yeah. So, so how do collaborations with your competitors improve your business, improve your bottom line, do you think?
I would actually, in answering your question, I would take the 2 words of collaboration and competitors and actually say, what do you actually mean by that? Because I think they're 2 opposite words. In the sense that when I look at collaboration, almost like from a dictionary, we're looking at 2 businesses coming together, pulling the resources to address a problem. when you're looking at your competitors, and I very often get this with some of the companies that come to or ask about Wire City events, or there's going to be 4 or 5 graphic designers, or there's going to be 3 copywriters in the room. There's going to be, yes, but because it's facilitated, we can actually move you around that you don't necessarily meet with those. You wouldn't necessarily look to collaborate with those. What you'd be looking for is maybe what expertise that they had that could complement you, or what sectors they were working in.
That was actually quite interesting, because on the LinkedIn groups in Wire City and a couple of the other ones, the Northern Creatives, there was a couple of comments that come back, and thank you very much for joining in, that were talking about, you know, working with competitors within, well, people in the same sector, but they do, say, they might do industrial sort of tech, and you might do consumer tech, and then their clients might need a bit of consumer, you might need a bit of industrial. Why learn a completely new sector?
Absolutely. I mean, I take that back to the second tier of this sort of collaboration, where you're actually aggregating your skills and bringing things together that you would offer. And I think you mentioned earlier about, you know, different types of specialisms within, you know, video production.
Yeah.
I was very surprised at the Liverpool event that we both went to. There were 3 copywriters in the room.
And there were 3 video companies in the room.
But there were 3 copywriters, and we'll just stay with them for the moment. Getting the 3 video people away from the free bar was quite.
Yeah, that was a challenge.
But the 3 copywriters actually work in collaboration. In the sense that the 3 individuals have different specialisms. One works in one works in medicine, one works in the legal environment, and I can't remember.
There was a guy I know writes technical manuals.
That's right. So the 3 of them are working in collaboration, and it's a simple situation that they've got it, because if one is overworked, they can move the work around or get support from the others. And watching, joking aside about the 3 video people together, what was very interesting is that you're very much catching up with each other. So you're competitors, but you're prepared to share information. So I think if you've got the atmosphere and the environment of trust, which I hope Wire City gives, because it's relaxed, it's fun, we don't take ourselves excessively serious, like sadly others do in terms of the networking. You get that environment. The 3 of you are competitors, but you had time to sit and talk and exchange ideas.
Yeah. So how can giving away secrets or insights within your business help benefit your own business? You know, are you not giving away, you know, in a sense, a bit of your own IP?
Again, that is the difficulty of information, and almost like the training you need to do before you go to a networking event, a Wire City event. Again, that's the sort of the balance between how much you actually tell. I mean, one of the questions you very often come at is, what's your 3 tips you would say for coming along to networking? The 3rd one I will say is you actually have to listen. Listen to the other person, what the other person is actually doing. So you're looking for the hooks that you can try and actually pick it up. Now, the copyright issues is a whole difficult ball game. And in a sense, it would be interesting, because the second point I would say is do your preparation, and in your preparation think, right, how much can I actually give away and explain about this unique product I'm actually developing. And that's the sort of safeguards in terms of your copyright. But I think it's an environment that Wire City tries to generate, is that you are actually sharing not with competitors but with peers.
That's a really interesting, yes, with peers, with people you can trust, respect, where I suppose in the same way, like in conversation with, is, you know, often we're having PR people in, marketing people in, we've got comms people coming in, you know, we've got hopefully, you know, some client side people coming in talking about their view of things, but the view is, you know, very much about their view of the world as they see it. I think it's a very important people to share that and to understand that, because you get insights which you can feed back through your own work, and often you find by sharing your ideas, you get better credibility for those ideas anyway.
I would agree entirely with you. I think it's also, Y City, we try and make sure that at least 40% of the delegates are new.
Okay.
We're not a membership-based organisation, but we have delegates that we call them the regulars.
Yes.
Like down at the boozer, the regulars, and they come and we have one or two that actually say, look, Les, I'm meeting before your event. And if I say hello to Chris at 24/7, he almost has 3 or 4 meetings before we actually stand up. And that's because they're using the event to actually come along and share. Mm-hmm. Like when we were joking about the video producers at the Liverpool event, that's where we actually are creating that environment of sharing, of catching up, finding up what's actually happening. So I think it's partly the environment. If you take sales out of it, you're much more likely to get that notion of shares. Mm-hmm. And that's what when we started the Y City, that's what we took out. And I will sort of moderate the delegates coming along. If we have salespeople, people that are not within the sector, we politely say, so it's not appropriate for you. If we have someone that's overtly selling, we goose march them into the gents' toilet and offer to shampoo their hair, because it's the wrong type of event, and it would upset the balance that you've described yourself benefiting.
So it's not a membership.
Yep.
There is a little small fee to come along, but what's in it for you? What do you get out of it?
Well, yes, the £12.50 if you book online, and the massive £15 if you come along.
Big bucks, Les.
It's big bucks. It's paying for the private education of my children and the mooring fees of my boat in Barcelona. Yeah, we don't charge because we try and get sponsorship. Mm-hmm. We try and get sponsorship from local authorities, from agencies, and we're now looking for regulars, hopefully to give something back in terms of that, so we can keep it as a fee. But the fee for me is also about commitment. If you come along and you register and you pay that fee and then don't turn up, what you're actually doing is not only you're missing opportunities, you're actually I have to say, peeing people off. Yep. By because they say, oh, I wanted to meet with Les Selby Associates. Their profile sounds interesting, and then when you just don't turn up, when you organise free events, that's what you very often after it. What's in it? We don't do any commission. We look for building the community so that a call for collaboration might generate 14, 15 responses. If we can get 5 or 6 of them to come along to the event, that's new clients coming actually through. Mm-hmm. So I suppose in that respect, the business model is based on sponsorship. Mm-hmm. We do cover marginal costs with the delegate fees, but no, there isn't any consultancy, there isn't any commission fees charged on the network.
This is quite interesting from a business model sort of thing. We sometimes cover this on the show. Yep. How on earth are you secured sponsorship in these times? There's no public money around.
It's getting more and more difficult. We've got 3 large corporate clients that are interested. Just getting them to get their checkbook out.
Isn't it always?
As always. That they're interested. I think that what the beauty is that Y City actually attracts the micro size and the small businesses, which the bigger corporate clients don't get access to, and they work within the sector. So that would be one thing. We're looking at working with authorities in creative ways and in terms of partnership. And one local authority that I'm speaking to, who is severely going to get restricted because of the spending review, is looking at working with universities, making a compromise. If I'm trying to encourage collaboration between the businesses, we are very keen in collaborating with local authorities, with other agencies. You know yourself, you come to events and we don't use the big conference or hotel centres. Nope. We only use the venues that are within the community, if you want to say that, digital creative community. Mm-hmm. And that's where we try and bring them on board. Yeah, the bank manager would like me to bring in my money. So with my partner.
Isn't it always the case? I'm now just checking out my clock. I've got a little bit more time. So we'll do one of our classic questions. What are the 3 tips you would suggest for coming along to your style of networking?
Well, if I actually extend it not just to my type of networking, but to any type of networking, I think that the first tip that I would always say is actually decide why you're going networking. What do you want to get out of the networking event? Why go to that networking event rather than the other? And I wouldn't say that Wide City Reconnected is the best and the only one you should actually attend. It's one type of networking event which would be different from a BNI, breakfast meeting and all the rest. And I think you have to get like... one can say a strategy. I would say a number of tools in your toolbox and use them in different type of events, because Wide City creates, it's about collaboration. The breakfast meetings are about getting up at the crack of dawn and talking to the businesses. That it's very random, but it's it's where the businesses might actually be from other sectors. The second point we joked about before is actually do your preparation. In the nicest possible way, I get annoyed when companies come along and say, there's 50 people in the room. Oh, I didn't get the chance to look. Oh, I don't know who to meet.
You know, I've done that. I must admit, I've turned up and gone, and you go, actually, these people already were looking to meet you anyway, and I admit that I've done that myself.
I mean, it is a notion of, if you're going to an event, what are you wanting out of it? If you do your preparation, that might be... when you're listening to someone talking about their business, you're actually halfway there. You can think, oh yes, you're doing this. We also do this. This might complement what you're actually doing. So that by doing that preparation, I think is imperative. And the third one is listen. My guru was Jonathan Kettleborough, who, when he ever went to a networking event, his first thing was to actually allow the other person in by asking them how their business day had gone, what was happening with them, and allowing them in. And Jonathan was listening all the time. And hello, Jonathan. And I think that's probably the best thing I ever learned from networking events, is actually listening, waiting for content, and listening for the hooks. And once you've got those hooks, then you can say, we do this might be of interest, there might be synergy here, there might be that sort of thing.
Yeah.
3 points.
Okay. Now, the thing that I would like to sort of add into all this, the sort of networking I've done the speed networking by John Monk at Chapel Street. It's great fun, very fast and furious, get a hoarse voice by the end of it, but that sort of gets you started into your elevator pitch sort of stuff. Done the BNIs and done business for breakfast, and they're very good at sort of getting you to consistently turn up and put the effort in, and that's a really good sort of trainer. I struggled with the Simply networking because it just became an open field of people, you didn't know where you're going. And what I really loved about Wire City was that introduction, because I can get stuck talking to someone about the stuff I love easily. I love what I do. I love making videos to people. I'm making great, interesting stuff that works. But I can get stuck talking about that. I'm a bit of a waffler at times. And what's really been useful about Wired is I'm starting to get the tools more and more to move myself on. Amy pats me in the back and I know it's time to move on.
Absolutely. I mean, I go back to what I said before. I think a company in our sector needs to try different networking. It needs to get out, not just stay with one. We refer to ourselves as very much as a nursery. You've probably heard this before. If you come to a facilitated networking event and you can survive and get benefit, then you can go on to the, if I call them the big boys and girls type networking event, and they're in the sort of various levels that they can actually go through. So that is very much the case. I mean, you're now, if you excuse my saying, a little bit of an old hand at the Wire City event because you actually manage yourself. We take it very light. We try and encourage you to move on. But where you're still talking business, we step back. We don't want to get into the sort of like, it's the speed dating type thing, because that becomes so artificial. Yeah, you don't get the time to actually develop. We also do it because sometimes you go get people who will tell you a lot about video productions and stay with you for 5-10 minutes, and you're just thinking, very interesting. But it's not what I'm here for. I'm looking for something.
Very interesting, and we should have a proper conversation, a bit more structured, either or.
Absolutely the case. I mean, this is where we would see that is the natural next stage after an event, that you would actually exchange your business cards and say, Lewis, I'll give you a browse tomorrow. and we'll pick that up. If I could be cheeky, there was a fourth point in the top: follow up.
And a lot of people forget this. So easy.
So much damage because you speak to people and they think, oh, they're very interested. And then you just sort of simply follow up. Whether it's just acknowledging that you met and here's my business contact. I mean, I don't use business cards for that purpose exactly, because I'm hoping the following morning you'll get an email from me and I'll be following it up. Thanks for meeting and picking that up.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
No, a good fourth is a very important fourth. I do see that we are now absolutely out of time. Thank you very much, Les, for coming in. It's been great. Thank you very much. Now, we just want to wrap up, just to give you some more dates for your diaries. We have Sean Fensom from Manchester Digital. He's here on the 2nd of November, which is a busy day for us here anyway. Then we have McCann's Manchester in. We're going to be talking to Richard Hayes. Maybe we'll get Sue Little in as well. We're just trying to negotiate that little piece. That's on the 16th of November. We have David Adams of Savvy Partnership. They'll with Helen as well. They'll be talking about marketing strategy, the sort of boring paperwork stuff, so you get your ducks in a line, so you know where you're going, whichever strategy is right for you, tailored to you. And then we have Rob Brown of Standing Forth. He'll be here on the 14th of December. We're also talking to the MPA about doing a special panel show to talk through about the new offerings coming from the new revamped MPA. So look out for that. We're hoping that'll be in the mid-November time. Until next time, thank you very much for joining us. See you again.